Good evening from Swansea wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. And today is Mailbag Monday, where we answer the questions that you guys have submitted via our Instagram stories. And once again this week we got a record number of submissions. You guys are killing it at the minute, but we've chosen, 5 of the best ones. And we've got a stacked panel to talk about it. So firstly, the co-host of the show, Clark Taylor. Clark, how are you today?
What's going on? Happy Halloween Eve. I'm stoked to be here as usual. I mean, it's going to be an awesome show. It's Mailbag Monday. Of course, to get ready for the show, went back, studied You've Got Mail. And so I figure I'm completely prepared for this show. Halloween Eve. Let's see what we got in the mail. I can't wait.
Absolutely, let's do it. Also joining us on the show today, we have the man who's usually known for Off the Air on Tuesdays and then Throwback Thursday on Thursdays. But today he is here on a Monday. Shad, Huda, how are you today, Shad?
Hey man, I'm doing good over here. My Eagles won yesterday, so definitely happy about that. And Halloween Eve, man, if y'all aren't busy tomorrow, man, Tuesday night is gonna get a little scary up in there. NXT Halloween Havoc review show night, 2 of their pay-per-view-ish weekly television program is lit, man. But let's get into this Mailbag Monday.
Absolutely. Let's open the mail. But before we do, last but certainly not least, the head of reviews here at Wrestling Republic, Coby Galenzoski. Coby, how are you today?
I'm doing very good. I mean, I'm not only has it been the first time I've been on the show since I got new lighting, so pretty mint as well. But at the end of the day, I'm celebrating a personal accomplishment here. Got my midterm mark back for university. Got a big 100% on my midterm. I'm happy.
Woo!
I'm stoked.
Woo!
I've wooed probably 20 times already so far. I'm happy. I'm here to talk wrestling like I always enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what they call a common Coby Galenzoski W. But let's get right into things and let's talk. Well, let's just open the mail. Let's get right into the mail bag because we have a question firstly from at cpc.1436 on Instagram. I mean, that could also very easily be somebody's password, it feels like, but that's their username. Who's asking, do you think The Rock will return at the Royal Rumble, or will CM Punk return? And if not, who do you want to see return? So basically, who is going to return at this year's Royal Rumble? Now, every single year, as a wrestling fan, heading into the Royal Rumble, we speculate. We have all these long list of names of people who are saying they're going to return. Last year it was Matt Cardona's going to return, and Jay White's going to debut. And there's always, a few years ago, it was Kenny Omega. There's always these names, and the only one which has really, turned out to be true in the last few years is not Kenny Omega, is AJ Styles and Edge. Apart from that, there's usually not that many returns. Maybe there's a few in the Women's Rumble, but in the Men's Rumble, there's often not that many. I'm going to be honest here, guys. I don't mean to be a killjoy, but I'm not sure if we're seeing CM Punk or The Rock show up at the Rumble. I really hope I'm wrong. I really hope that at number 30, either The Rock's theme or Cult of Personality hit. That would just be brilliant. I mean, every wrestling fan, lives for those moments. But I'm not going into the show, expecting them. Because we've been let down just too many times at this point. But Clark, what about you? Do you think The Rock or Punk will return? And if not, anybody else?
I hate to agree and say that I don't see it as well, but if I'm picking between the two, it's If You Smell before it's Cult of Personality, unfortunately. or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. I would love to see The Rock return. I find it unlikely because I have a weird feeling about the writers' strike and the actors' strike finally fully being resolved by then. And I think that will affect The Rock's schedule. I don't see CM Punk in WWE. I've said this over and over again. Would I be excited about it? Of course. But if you're going to do it in Chicago, it's probably too soon. Timing doesn't work out. And I don't know that down the road it feels the same. And I hope also for the WWE's sake that the rest of the division is built up well enough that it doesn't necessarily matter. Because last year I don't want to say got lucky, but Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns was awesome. In Hollywood, a lot of Rock whispers, right? Along the way there. They built to a spot. It was what it was. I enjoyed it personally, and I thought the right decision was made. But this year, it's WrestleMania 40. Let's tell a complete story. And whether that involves The Rock or not, I don't know. But let's get it right this time. No matter who it is, that's the challenger. Let's be fully invested because Sami Zayn in his organic run definitely played a role in the way that Cody and Roman was booked and the way that it was received as well.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, let's not finish a story. Let's tell one this year. And of course, WrestleMania 40, it's a big one as well. Every decade it's a huge mania. They need something big. If it's not going to be CM Punk or Roman Reigns, well, they need something they need somebody for Roman Reigns to face at WrestleMania, and they needed somebody big as well. I don't think the Cody rematch, I think that could well be the direction they're going in, but I'm not sure if that's going to be a letdown, because to your point, Clark, last year there were whispers about The Rock, but Cody Rhodes getting that opportunity to finish the story. Fans, ignored the entire Rock thing because they were so drawn into that story. We complained about it at times, but the reality is it drew fans in. So many Cody t-shirts were, sold at Mania, right? Fans were invested into that. But if you don't have a story which they're super invested into, then yeah, you do risk the crowd, turning on you at the end of the Royal Rumble if maybe Cody wins it and there's no surprises or something like that. But Shad, what about you? Who do you think we could see return at the Royal Rumble?
I don't think we are going to get one Dwayne the Rock Johnson, just with how busy his schedule is. It's difficult for me to see him be invested into this storyline at this current moment of time. I know we had a lot of excitement for it, and at that time I saw the optimism, but obviously we can't ignore the writer's strike probably coming to an end of its not, and I'm not entirely sure on the status of that, but I know it's probably going into an end. I feel like he's gonna get back into his Hollywood esque schedule. CM Punk, as interesting and intriguing and cool as it would be, I don't think it's going to happen as well. I just think that's kind of a hairy situation. I don't think they're going to want to tread the waters with bringing him back. The person I think that's going to return is a person who is technically already on a roster and that's been out for a while. And I think it's going to be Randy Orton. I think Randy is going to return back at the Royal Rumble. And I could even go ahead and say that maybe this is, I don't know what the betting odds is on it, but I could see Randy maybe even winning the Royal Rumble and eventually having a WrestleMania match versus Mr. Seth freaking Rollins and getting that title off of Seth. I think the moment will be great. We've missed Randy Orton for a while now. If he's able to give us one last run with his age and current health, I mean, you got to bank on it. He's one of the great wrestlers within this 2000 to 2010 era, and I don't know, man. He's like the man that was a legend killer has become a legend. I feel that moment and that match with Seth could be great, and the crowd's gonna go crazy as soon as they hear that voices hit at the Rumble. So I'm gonna go with Randy.
Oh, I would absolutely love that. And you mentioned possibly a match with him and Seth, but honestly, him and Roman, it looked like they were building towards that before he got hurt, but that's still a
It's true
match they
too.
haven't done
It's
in
true
this
too.
reign. He's one of the only people, I guess, left. So Orton versus Reigns, WrestleMania 40, maybe that is enough, right? Maybe that is a big enough match. And just to clear up the actors' writer strike thing, the writer strike is over. That's all been sorted. Problem solved. The issue currently is the actor strike. Talks have broken down multiple times, but now there's rumors. Is it back on the right tracks? We're gonna have to wait and see. But hopefully, well, I say hopefully that'll be resolved soon. But at the same time, as wrestling fans, I guess we selfishly don't want it to be. But what about you, Coby? Do you think we could see anybody return at the Royal Rumble?
I fully intended to mention Randy Orton as being, if the return doesn't happen before the Rumble, I could see Randy Orton doing it. I know Randy Orton wants to end his career on his own terms. Aside from being told to retire by doctors, he had a very serious surgery for his spine. At the end of the day, this is what I can say about the scenario. One, I don't know if the Punk return hits as well as it would at the Rumble than if it would be at Survivor Series. We don't know. And then talking about The Rock, the Rock would have put pen to paper by now. They would have come to an agreement. They would have organized this. They would have said, they would have put X and Y down on the paper, on the contract. They would have. I fully believe they would have already had a discussion and already planned for him to take the 4 months into the as an act in the company, or however long about that. Well, obviously, we're not going to know, and we shouldn't know, and we shouldn't, because that's where the surprise is. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I don't think either of them will return as of right now. And the biggest thing is other than Cody Rhodes winning the Rumble, I don't see someone. I guess Randy Orton could, because he could go either Randy and Seth or Randy and Roman, because it's a match that, I mean, it's two era-defining superstars. Randy Orton's one of the Ruthless Aggression guys, still going and still in the company. Where I mean, Cena is possibly coming to an end with his part-time run, and Edge is in a different company for the Ruthless Aggression guys. Right now, I don't know where it makes sense, because we have Cody Rhodes winning the Rumble. I don't want to see him win another Rumble to get to Roman Reigns. And that's the thing. How does it make sense if you have the Royal Rumble winner go, yeah, I'm gonna go for Seth Rollins. Would that makes no sense, because you want to go for the big kahuna. You want to go for the big one. You want to go for Roman Reigns' championship, because it is the flagship championship of the company. And yes, I believe they have done well with Seth Rollins' reign, but I don't think you can argue that they would want to go for Seth instead of Roman Reigns. I don't know.
That's a good point.
I mean, it is. The only one I can think of is, and I've always used this term, milestone mania. It's a milestone mania because it's WrestleMania 40. They're typically the 4 zeros or the X zeros and the X fives. So the 40s, the 10s, or the 5s. To me, if you can nail this down, I'd almost be invested. And it depends on the story. You can tell. I know, obviously, Roman would win this, because you're not going to get it and you're not going to break that record. But the biggest thing that was said weeks ago before LA Knight was a contender was John Cena saying, I haven't earned it. I'd be interested to see if you could pull Cena winning the Rumble and a Cena Roman main event for WrestleMania. But I like that. That's the only thing I can think of. It's like a milestone main event. Maybe that is it. But I seriously don't know. And that's kind of the beauty of this. But I don't know if that's an accurate idea or not.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a good point. There's a lot. It's very fun, and it's fun for us to speculate, because we just really don't know this year. And that's very, that's very fun as a fan. Of course, it leaves a lot of room for some fans to get let down, which is why I don't really want us to have all these hopes and expectations. Because, again, CM Punk and Rock both seem slightly unlikely to me. We got a few comments here. Firstly, Bobby Petito. Shout out to you, Bobby, who would like to see
Bobby!
Matt Cardona or Steph DeLonda to wrestle in the Royal Rumble match. Steph DeLonda, I don't think is well enough known, unfortunately. Matt Cardona, I mean, any year that they can work that out, I think that's possible.
Cardona, yeah.
Numero One Superfly is saying that Mickey James or Heath Slater, because he's done in Impact Wrestling. I mean, honestly, either of those I think would be fun too. I don't think Heath's winning though, but yeah. That one would be a bit wild. But, I mean, I'd certainly love Heath to just show up for a Rumble. That'd be fun.
I mean,
I'd love to
take
see
him
Mickey
over
come
Del
back to
Rio.
WWE.
Was it just me, or doesn't he have kids?
Well, he has a lot of kids.
No,
They gave a Royal Rumble.
Isn't that the whole gimmick? I got kids.
to Alberto
Yeah, he's
Del
got to support
Rio.
his kids, so he's got to return to the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
That's
simple.
what I'm saying.
He's basically Antonio Cromartie.
Exactly what I just said.
I mean,
But now let's move on and let's talk about money, specifically Mercedes money, because at Torres_3Rick on Instagram is asking, will Mercedes money return to WWE? As soon as she left the company, I said this from the start. I said she's going to go to Japan. She's going to work there for maybe a year or so. She's going to do all the dream stuff that she wants to do. And then she's going to return. She's going to have a big WrestleMania match or something. Maybe a fatal 4-way, 4 horsewoman main event of WrestleMania. I kind of thought that maybe WrestleMania 40 was going to be that time. I think now it's probably looking more like WrestleMania 41. Maybe if Bayley and Io Sky, that leads up to this year's Mania. Bayley wins a Mania, holds a title for like a year, if they can pull that off. And then the following Mania, Mania 41, you have that fatal 4-way main event. I think that would be outstanding. But the big, spanner in the works is, well, of course, Mercedes Moné was in attendance for AEW All in London earlier this year. And, I mean, she's heavily teasing an AEW run, but I think it might be a one and done. I think that she will go to AEW when she returns, but I think it'll be a one-off match. And then I do believe she will be back on her way next year. Well, not next year, the year after next. And win the Royal Rumble match. So the Royal Rumble 2025, I'm calling it now, Mercedes Moné, otherwise known as Sasha Banks, will win that fatal 4-way 4 horsewoman main event WrestleMania 41. Bucket, Hunter, Clark, give me your thoughts.
I mean, I definitely think that eventually she'll return to the WWE. In the short term, no. I don't even think as soon as 2025. That seems too soon to me. I look at what Francis Ngannou has done since leaving the UFC, carrying the heavyweight title, and in a loss to Tyson Fury, he's raised his stock and made as much money as he possibly could. And this is a guy that was the heavyweight champion in the UFC. Endeavor, they're all under the same umbrella right now. I don't see any reason she doesn't continue to work in New Japan, doesn't continue to work towards potentially a run in AEW, as you mentioned. And I don't think it necessarily is a one-off. I think she'll spend some time there because creative control is something that seemingly Mercedes Moné enjoys. It matters, right? And I'm speculating there, but it's something based on the decisions she's made long-term, based on the style she wrestles, based on what she's done since her and Naomi Trinity left the tag team titles and left the E, as we like to say. Those decisions have all pointed towards somebody that, kind of wants to have control of their own destiny in a way that might not align with working under a corporation the size of Endeavor. And that's no knock on the way the WWE books or the system or any of that. It's a giant company, but it's hard sometimes. I feel like it's really easy to see the company side and thinking about what individual performers might believe, like Mercedes Moné, especially someone that talented. I don't see her coming back to WWE outside of an absolute get the bag and like paid and an immediate gigantic push. I just don't see that. I think that's why she tried to stand up for herself in the way she has over the last year since she walked away in the first place. And I don't know that
Forgetting
that
one
changes
factor.
in the short term.
Forgetting one factor, I think. Her relationship with Triple H. Because
Even
remember,
then,
he didn't have the book when she left.
but
He has the book now.
that doesn't necessarily change. That doesn't necessarily change the financial and creative stuff because even as you can, Triple H could be, father figure to her, but she may not want to collaborate creatively all the time with him because you don't know as a creator, as a performer, what her priorities necessarily are.
I mean, that's fair.
And we
they
know
both
she's
collaborate in
amazing,
AEW too.
right? And of course,
Yeah,
and you always have to work with other people, but we may not know what her priorities are in a way
that's
where
true. Yeah,
I'm not sure that the WWE landscape fits her current mindset. We've really seen her spread her wings since she's left in a way, and we all know about Mandalorian.
that's true.
That's not to be mentioned and or not to be overlooked
Yeah,
or like that should be mentioned, right?
yeah.
Is what I meant to say there. But the right, the Mandalorian was a big deal,
I mean,
and
WWE got her. Well, she got that role while she was with WWE. In fairness, as well.
now, and see, I don't want to take that away from the creator because if she believes that she can go out and get another role,
That's true.
that
That's
might
true.
be a reason that she doesn't want to go back to WWE. And that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make here is as much as she's a talent and is friends with Bailey, Triple H, a lot of people in WWE,
Mm.
the independence that she's shown from her move to New Japan through even just the little things she's done, like going to All In, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
right?
No, it's very fascinating.
It's an interesting conversation to be had,
Yeah.
and I it's one of the hardest to predict for me
No, it
because
absolutely is. And Bobby's got an interesting prediction here. Bobby said Mercedes Moné will win the New Japan Strong Women's Championship from Julia, and then she can
that'd be
defend it on
fascinating too.
Dynamite. So that's a good shout.
Yeah, I would have no issue with that, and given the relationship between New Japan and AEW, you have that and Forbidden
Yeah.
Door way down the road, but
True.
still, like, I mean, you could build a card with Mercedes Moné on the poster at Forbidden
Yeah.
Door quite easily. I feel like,
Easy.
given the right match, and
Easy
it,
Moné.
it's exactly easy Moné. Thank you.
Took you a second there, but
Got him. No. It was too good. It didn't take me that long. I didn't want to like crack on screen too hard there for that one. But no,
well,
that's completely logical. And I think it also, you look at things like Tony Storm, Mercedes Moné would be electric. Given the way
yeah.
Mercedes has been booked since she's left WWE. I mean, it's just that's something I'd love to see.
No, that would be a banger of about, as I like to say, the talking about, cracking up on screen. Right, let's talk about some characters which want to make you crack your screen in fear. Because we got a question from our good friend David Sheldon, who asked specifically to send this in because, of course, he's a big cinema guy, he's a big Halloween guy, and Halloween is tomorrow, and he is asking, who is the scariest character in wrestling of all time? This is a great question, and one which, we can have a long discussion about, but for me personally, the Boogeyman, as a kid, I mean, that guy, the fact that he was eating worms, that grossed me out, it terrified me. Young Ben was not very happy to see him on a screen. In fact, it was go away, heat if anything. I left the room and turned it off. I did not want to see him But in terms of who I actually think the scariest wrestling character ever is, I'm going to go early Mankind. Of course, as the gimmick went on, Mankind became a bit less serious. But early at the start with those, promos with the piano, that was terrifying stuff. That's some of the best, promo work you can just see. If you haven't seen it, make sure to go and check those old Mankind promos out, because they are just so good. But Shard, who do you think is the scariest character in wrestling of all time?
I think it's clearly the Undertaker. The different You talk about the variations of him. We're talking about the early Undertaker with the combo of him and Paul Bear, who also is a very scary figure in pro wrestling. But I mean, he's had some of the craziest scary moments. You think about that dark wedding that he had with Stephanie McMahon when he was doing the whole Ministry of Darkness stuff. All the type of matches with the buried alive matches, the scariness of you speaking about Mankind, him throwing him off the Hell in a Cell. I mean, Taker just the epitome of just his aesthetic of being a dark, the dark purple lighting coming out and the bell playing in or the dong playing in, and just everything about that was so creepy as a kid to me. But he's also scary off the standpoint that he's so dominant. Like, you're talking about a guy obviously before his record got broken, but he wasn't losing that Mania. He had a long undefeated streak at Mania. He's been a world champion. He's just a 7-foot giant that'll have the powerful moves that'll put you through the ring with choke slams and power bombs and all of that. And even when he was the American Badass, man, like, it's just scary amongst like a big bad like biker dude. Like, he just imposed a very scary presence, whether it be a dark persona or it be him being him. But Taker, obviously, to me, is the scariest person. If I had to pick some honorable mentions, you said the Boogeyman. I was always afraid of Doink the Clown because I used to be afraid of clowns as a kid. Thought he was really weird. And early variation of Gold Dust before they made it silly, kind of like how it was with Mankind and Mick Foley. I thought Gold Dust was a brilliant character initially, just a crazy, deranged dude from Hollywood with the shattered dreams. I thought he was really weird looking and he had a very eerie presence to it. I thought early Gold Dust was also scary as well.
Oh, that is actually a very good shout, Shard. I like that one. Early Gold Dust. But now let's move on and let's talk about the future. Let's talk about the company which will soon be once again known as TNA Wrestling, is currently known as Impact Wrestling, because at street_profits_club is asking, how can TNA-Impact Wrestling be more competitive within the professional wrestling landscape? Of course, right now, the two, in America, the two big wrestling companies are WWE and then AEW, and nobody else really, is in that fight, so to speak. And Impact Wrestling, TNA, when it first started, they were trying to go head to head with WWE. They were trying to replace WCW as the main competitor of WWE. But how can they get back to that position? How can they make this a three-person fight? How can they make this a triple threat for who could be the best promotion? I mean, it's a very good question. Coby, what do you think? Do you have any solutions on how you think they could be more competitive?
I think the biggest thing that I assume they are going to change with this rebrand, with the new, I don't want to say a new lease on life, but it's a new lease on the company's life. But they gotta go with better production. We're looking at Impact Wrestling, and a lot of the time, the crowds are not mic'd correctly. It's hard to capture to them. It's hard to capture the essence because sometimes nobody's getting reactions according to the audio we're getting if we're watching it. Now, I mean, I'm a strong believer that they can compete because they have good storytelling and they have great competitors like Josh Alexander, like the Motor City Machine Guns. They have one heck of a talent pool already. And if they can get a number of additional talent, I know they have a working relationship with New Japan, or at least they've had for a bit. Maybe not so much as of late. They did a couple multiverse shows that they called this year, but the biggest thing is the production. You have to make this look like a really good show. You have to gain attention. You have to, if you can get a couple big signees, get some big signees. If you can bring Mercedes Moné from one off, if you can bring CM Punk in, if you can be the company to get Will Ospreay, do it. There's a big talent pool, and there's a lot of people that they can sit there and say, if we can make this a serious attempt, they can gain momentum. Because when they announced the rebrand, and this is, I guess, something quickly to mention, when they announced the rebrand, nobody was talking about what was happening on that night's Collision. So they are very capable of taking the wrestling world by storm, and I very much believe that. But obviously, only time will tell. But they got to do this right, and I think that starts with better production and continuing to stay in the news and stay in the headlines.
Yeah, no, that is a great point, Coby. And then, one way to stay in the headlines is, signing CM Punk. If you can do it, that's what Numero One Superfly is suggesting. As well as, getting a bigger, better TV deal. I mean, all these things, I think it does start with better production, like Coby said. I think that is the number one thing that they need. And Bobby Petito is also saying maybe bring in some big names. I mean, Punk and Ospreay plus better production. If they could do that, I think it'd be very hard to pull off, 2 out of those 3 things. But if you were able to do that, then that would be absolutely excellent. But now let's move on and let's talk. Let's talk AEW, right? Who will be the man to dethrone MJF? Asks, and that's today's difficult name to pronounce, at Ngrand144. Actually, that wasn't that bad. On Instagram is asking, who do you think is the man to dethrone Maxwell Jacob Friedman? Of course, MJF at this moment in time is, he's held this championship now for what feels like, almost a year. He's pretty much, he's very, very likely now to, surpass Kenny Omega as the longest reigning AEW champion. I actually am struggling to remember a time right now when MJF wasn't holding that gold. But yeah, who could be the man to dethrone MJF? Now, it's just one which isn't clear. There's a lot of different, possibilities. There's not one obvious answer. But the person I'm going to give is a bit of a wild card, and that man is Samoa Joe. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I couldn't have imagined a month ago even saying this. But the fact that they're running back that feud now, the fact that, Samoa Joe's being involved is like, MJF, I'll be your tag partner as long as I get another shot at it. The fact that they're building up Samoa Joe week in and week out with these squash matches, I just have a feeling they've decided Samoa Joe is that guy. Samoa Joe is him. Samoa Joe will be the next AEW World Heavyweight Champion. And I think that is certainly very interesting if that does happen. But Coby, what do you think? Who do you think will be the man to dethrone MJF?
To me, you made a lot of comments about MJF's championship reign, and I think they're all valid. He started off in a great rivalry with, I guess at the time it was the Blackpool Combat Club, but he took out William Regal from the company, and he had a big feud with Bryan Danielson. They did their four pillars feud that we got, but the most important and almost, I want to say, the drawing storyline of his championship reign has been a lot of this stuff with Adam Cole. This has been, I don't know if this is him checking off the boxes to say, hey, I can be a face in AEW, and this is me trying to show that I'm more valuable to you, WWE. I don't know if it's that. I'm not saying it's that. And I'm not going to, that's that. At the end of the day, to me, the person that you can really make is Adam Cole. Adam Cole, someone who has been integral in this championship reign, because MJF went from the dastardly heel, not that, to now he's essentially the face of the company. He's the most beloved guy on the roster. And Adam Cole doing the heel turn. Adam Cole forming the kingdom again. Adam Cole being a real threat to MJF. I think it writes itself. I think the only issue that can be mentioned is I don't think MJF is back this year. And we know the contract status is a big thing. And I know that it's interesting because we have MJF who's still claiming that he hasn't signed a new deal and the bidding war is still up and available. The only time to pay that off is next year when he's not contracted, if Adam Cole is that guy to take the title off of him. So that's the only kind of devil's advocate that I can say here.
Yeah, I mean, Adam Cole is a great shout. That was a story which they, been telling before, of course, that injury. That injury now kind of, that's a spanner in the works. But, Shad, what about you? Who do you think will dethrone Maxwell Jacob Friedman?
So obviously we know that Max is intertwined with a series of feuds going on. Uh, there's that cloud, like Coby said, between him and Adam Cole that may come back alive. Him, Samoa Joe, him and Jay White, etc., etc. I don't think any of them are going to get the title. I think when you talk about a future champion, the person that's holding big gold has to be a superstar that feels like a superstar, that commands a presence of a champion, one who will give you incredible work as a in-ring competitor, but also outside of it, and someone who can breach outside uh within different ventures. And I think that person, without a doubt, is Swerve Strickland. You think about the work he's been doing this last few months with his feud with Adam Page, and we talk about it a lot in our Dynamite review episodes on Throwback Thursdays. It's the most real feeling feud in AEW at the moment. Swerve Strickland is the best heel in all elite wrestling. He doesn't need to give you cheap heat promo tactics. Everything he does is so cinematic. He's such a mastermind as a heel. But besides that, you can flip the switch and make him a very likable babyface because he's the epitome of a superstar. The presence, the aura, him having so much ties outside of wrestling with people that are in the hip hop world. And let's not forget, he has one accolade that he wants to pull. He wants to be the first minority African American champion on AEW. They haven't had that yet. He wants to be the first one. I think he would, like, out of all the black male superstars right now, he's at the top of the food chain for what he's doing. I think it'd be a no-brainer to get Swerve to get that title off of MJF. MJF being kind of a baby face at the moment, I'd let Swerve beat him by sometime next year. Maybe beat him at the pay-per-view right before the year ends, man. Let Swerve have this moment. I think he's the person you could put the rocket on, and he's taking you all the way to the moon, man. Like he's a star, and I think it's gonna be Swerve's house when he gets that belt.
Absolutely. No,
Do
I
the
mean,
nana to it.
Swerve. Swerve is undoubtedly another great shout. There's so many different shouts, you can do. I ended up doing what's it called then, by accident. What's his name? Daniel Garcia. I ended up doing his one then by accident. But
That'd be an interesting pick. That's not who I'm picking. Not to give it away.
I mean, that would be wild, Clark. But I mean, Clark, who are you picking then? Who is the guy who you think will dethrone the current MJF?
Well, Shad made it real easy for me there because while Swerve is completely logical and I totally agree with everything he said, I really do. Like, I'm a huge Swerve Strickland fan. I believe in him in every facet of his game. He's good across the board. but there's one best heel in AEW history, and that's Maxwell Jacob Friedman. There's one best face, and it's Hangman Adam Page. And that's who takes the title. And from there, you have Swerve and the moment, because Swerve's heel run continues along the way the entire time, and it's paid off in the finale of the Swerve Hangman rivalry that kind of sits for us, right? It's always there, but for some reason, maybe, for a few months, Hangman gets on this run. He goes after MJF. MJF turns into who we all know he is at heart. Hangman Page wins the title once again. The ultimate babyface, the ultimate pillar in my eyes, actually, and the most underrated talent in AEW outside of Swerve. And that rivalry is a championship rivalry headed into All Out next September.
I really, really don't mind that. I actually love the idea behind it. Of course, it should happen All In, which is, the bigger show, the big Wembley show, rather than, in that Chicago place.
By the way, I
But,
forgot about it.
No, I'm winding you up. But no, in all seriousness, I actually do love that idea. Swerve Hangman. I also think you could do it the other way around, to be honest. In fact, I'd actually kind of prefer it the other way around. Have Swerve beat MJF and then have Hangman beat Swerve, because then it's like Hangman loses this rivalry. Swerve ends up going to the top of the food chain, and then Hangman beats Swerve to get back to the top, be the champion, the championship level. But I
just want Swerve to get that moment of beating the longest reign AEW champ. That holds so much validity and weight to it. Obviously, Hangman's not a bad shout, I think, but Hangman's got his moment before. He's had that moment versus Kenny.
Yes.
I think Swerve is more deserving of that moment, and getting that opportunity, I feel like that will also catapult him to that next step on the ladder to be, because I truly think he's one of the top guys on AEW without a doubt.
I couldn't agree more with you on that. Like, to your point, like Swerve, it benefits greater. Although I think Swerve's run recently has been so great. The pop in Chicago for Swerve beating Hangman, even if he's the heel, I think is larger even than doing it at Wembley or doing it over Max. I don't know if that moment, if he goes over Max, feels like, because of how beloved in a weird way the MJF character is right now.
That momentum of Swerve is so hot right now. People really like him. You gotta strike when the iron's hot, man. I feel like that's one thing, and that's one thing Tony Khan is good at. Like, to his defense, he reads the room and he listens to what fans gotta say, and he knows which superstars are ready for that moment and giving him that moment. He's very good at giving superstars moments, and I think I feel like it's a no-brainer for who could be the next star. It may not look sensible at the moment because he's not in theory a storyline with him, but I don't know.
No, honestly, I do. I like what you both said. I think Swerve needs to be the guy to do it, but then Hangman needs to beat Swerve to make that story come full circle. But there's a lot of, interesting ones out there, and that's what makes it fun. But guys, we're coming to the end of the show for today. We'll be back tomorrow for the Raw review, and of course after that NXT Off the Air for Halloween Havoc. It's a Halloween special on the daily and off the air tomorrow. It's going to be very, very fun indeed. Thank you to Clark, thank you to Coby, and thank you to Shad for joining me here today on this Mailbag Monday. Thank you to everybody for sending in the questions. We really, really appreciate it. If you did enjoy this podcast, please like and subscribe on YouTube. It helps us out massively. Share with your friends too. That helps out too. And then cheeky 5 stars it on Spotify. Thank you guys so much. We'll be back here tomorrow, and have a happy Halloween Eve. See you guys.